Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Keeping Up with Keith series. I'm Keith Bryant, and today we have an amazing guest. He's an astounding producer, an Emmy winner, a Golden Mike winner, and we were colleagues at NBC4 Los Angeles. So today we are keeping up with Nick Amador.
Hello,
Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
I am good. It is a Wednesday. We are living life. Can't complain. Everything is good. Happy to be here.
Yes, yes, and happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I know.
Yes. And so, first of all, your career, you have worked in some markets that people envy of, that producers envy would want to be, from Miami, New York to, literally those top markets.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, how did you get the bug for journalism? What inspired you to get inside the industry?
I knew I wanted to work in news since I was like 5. I remember like waking up and like some kids want to watch cartoons, but I wanted to watch the news. So growing up in New Jersey, like I worked like we had like the New York market. So I used to always like wake up and want to watch Good Day New York, which was the Fox affiliate. And I used to like love watching with my mom. I loved the weather. I loved like hearing what was going on in the world. I loved just being in the know. And then that kind of just took off. And I studied that in high school. And then I went on to college to do the same thing. And I just knew that that's where I wanted to be. And here we are many years later, and I'm still loving it.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you went to Quinnipiac University. I know that's a
Yes.
very good journalism school because when I worked in Connecticut, NBC Connecticut, we had a lot of people who graduated from there or interns from there. So what was
Yeah.
your experience in that journalism program? Do you feel it prepared you for what you're doing now?
Yeah, no, Quinnipiac was fantastic. I remember visiting the campus during like high school and like knowing like immediately falling in love. I grew up in like a very like inner city. So like when I went to Quinnipiac and I saw like this green lush grass, then I was like, this is where I want to be. And the journalism program was so good. And I learned so much. I feel like journalism, no matter where you go to school, like it's the hands-on experience, like that you really like being in the know, going out and shooting stuff, being on camera, like really gathering those elements and like doing that was incredible. And I learned so much from people around me and like being just like in like student media organizations as well, like even outside of the classroom, doing that as well was so important.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you did some amazing internships at WNBC but you actually got your start in Miami as an associate producer at NBC6 Miami. So
I
how did that
know.
come about?
You know me. I love the heat. I love warm weather. So when I was looking for careers, I was like, where can I move that I can love what I do, but also be in this? So I searched high and low. And I had interned at WNBC in New York. So like I had those media contacts from there and kind of just like, kept good connection. I think you should always keep connections everywhere you work. Like I talked to everyone from stations still past and present. And it was just like so amazing that like, the doors opened for me and like I was able to get there and stay there. And I was there for a little under 2 years. Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, by any standards, this is very rare because usually when you out of school, people go, you gotta slum it in the small markets.
I know. I was like, thankfully I got to go to Miami. No, it
Did you
was great.
did you get any advice like, "Oh, no, you should not go to Miami. That's too tough of a market. Should you go somewhere, smaller than that?"
Listen, I went to Miami, but it wasn't glamorous, right? Like I still had to wake up at 11 p.m. to go to work. I worked the overnight shift, but that's the grind, right? And I feel like I was thrown into it. And for that, I'm so thankful because from there I went to New York, then to LA. And I feel like, I learned so much because I also had no choice. Like it was kind of just like, you want to be here, then you're going to do the work. And that's where I started producing as well. Like I started writing in the morning for the morning show and then I would produce as well. And those people were all there to help me. And like, it was such a supportive market as well that I'm so grateful for that.
Yes, and then you went to New York, you got to work, I will say, at the most infamous station in the entire country, UABC, the flagship. I mean when I was interning in New York, I just loved watching that station, and their
Yeah.
camera filter, I don't know what the camera is. It just I just I don't know, I feel like every news station should get that type of filter 'cause but anyways, but producing there, so how'd you get to WABC, and what was it like working there?
Yeah. So obviously, like, I'm from the tri-state area. So like for me, my biggest goal was to tell the news in my hometown. So I always knew that I wanted to go back to New York. I thought I would go from, the NBC station in Miami to the NBC station in New York, but it just sometimes it doesn't happen that way, right?
Yes.
So as I was looking for places, a freelance gig popped up at WABC. It was a weekend morning producer. No, weekend morning writer. Yeah, weekend morning writer. I was writing on the weekend mornings, and I was like, you know what? Let me shoot my shot. I think for me, it's always like you always have to try, because what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's going to say no. Like, okay, do it anyway. So I said, reach out to people that I knew in the business, and I just did it. And luckily enough, I was able to connect with the right people and show off the talents that I had and like the skills that I could bring to the team. And they took a chance. They took a chance on someone that was so young, that was relatively inexperienced. And I proved myself, and I worked my way up that ladder for a long time there. I was there for just over 5 years. And I went from writing on the weekend mornings to producing on the weekend mornings to then becoming the senior producer of the weekend mornings, and like really just doing so much. Eventually, when I moved to weekdays, producing the 6 a.m. on the weekdays, and like producing the 6 a.m. on the weekdays at the number one station on the number one morning show, my life, I was the happiest I could be. Like, it was
Yes.
truly, truly, truly incredible. And I'm so grateful for that station. I mean, I can't say enough good things about WABC. Even to this day, I don't work there anymore, and I still text people. I'm like, oh my God, I loved what you did. I mean, I'm always watching, even at my desk here. Like, I'm so grateful for that. And, everything comes to an end, and it was my choice to leave. And my biggest thing was I wanted to move to LA. Like, I was like, I had accomplished the goal that I wanted to. I produced in my hometown. I did that. And it was like, what's next? And I didn't know. And then I just like, you know what? Maybe LA is next. And it was. And that's kind of that leap of faith that I took again.
Okay, awesome. And before we talk about your LA chapter, and during New York, you won your first Emmy during your
hmm
time at WABC. So what was that like, winning your first Emmy, and what newscast was it for?
So I remember it was, I don't know the exact year, but I was actually in Washington, D.C. at the museum. It now since closed, sadly, but it was a great experience. And
Yes.
we were there, and I was there at the museum, and I remember being on the train back. We went for a day trip. Me and my friend Sarah went for a day trip, and on the way back, or being on the train, I had to go into work at like 3 a.m. the next morning, and my phone starts blowing up. It was like there was a shootout in Jersey City. There was like several people shot. It was a true terrible, terrible situation. And they're like, we need you to come to work right now. And I'm like, well, I'm on the train in DC. Like, it's going to be a few hours. And I remember like literally hopping off the train, going to work. We were in rolling coverage, and we were just on. We were just on. And as sad as the situation was, right? Because it's breaking news, and there's tragedy. The adrenaline and getting the information to people that is so important for them to know is what keeps you going, and just being so informational about it. And to win an Emmy for that, again, it's a high and a low, right? It's like, it's so exciting because like, you've accomplished the goal, but
Yes.
then look at the impact, and look at why you want it. And so it's a mix of emotions.
Yes, no, absolutely. And then now you went from New York to LA. So how did you land at NBC? Did you want to be at NBC, or did you want to be at, I guess, oh gosh, maybe you
I,
can't say it now, the rival.
no, it was just like, I mean, again, you shoot your shot, you see what's open. Uh, when my contract was up at WABC, I kind of was like, okay, move to LA. That's the next goal for me. I'm over this cold weather. I do not want to shovel my car. I do not want to do this anymore. I'm done.
Yes.
What's available? And news is so, it ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes
Yes.
there's 6 openings at a station, sometimes there's 0 openings. And at the time that my contract was up and I needed a job, this is where it was. And I am so grateful for that right now, because now I've been there. It's been 3.5 years. It'll be 4 years in January. And I produced the 6 p.m. news. And I've done that since I got there. And I've watched that show grow from what it was when I first started to what it is now. And what I was able to put into that show makes me so grateful. But it's also not just me. It's the writers, it's the EPs, it's the talent. There's so much, and I love my time at NBC. I can't believe it's about to be 4 years. It's crazy. I feel like I was just in New York.
Yes, yes. I mean, what has been, I guess, for you, your most, or I guess, rewarding moment at Channel 4 so far?
Who most rewarding moment? I mean, it is Pride Month, and I think as you know, like, I advocate for my stories, and I don't back down. I
Yes.
am very outspoken, and I think, like, I want to make sure that queer voices are heard, and I continue to do that. I mean, I will always push for stories. one of my most recent pitches that comes to mind was like, I live in West Hollywood, and for the first time in my, at least my knowledge, we have a lesbian bar.
Yes.
And I made it my goal to make sure that we cover that. It's important. I mean, there's not many lesbian bars in the country. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's not as many gay bars, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, this is important. And we covered it, and I think it's moments like that. It's moments like telling the stories that are underrepresented, that need to be told, and for viewers to see, especially during this time, this administration, and all that stuff.
Yes, no, absolutely. And actually, speaking of, representation and advocacy, so for you, were you always authentically out in a newsroom, or did you try, I guess, to code switch when you got into the news industry, just knowing how the industry was, I guess, maybe 10 years ago or so?
No, this is me. Like, I I've never tried to do that. I always tell people like this is me, and like I'll be respectful, but I also think that our stories matter, and I'm not going to back down from telling those and being who I am and being open and honest, and it's yeah, I'm at a loss for words in that sense because I'm just me.
Mhm, mhm. No, absolutely. Because like, because I know I talk to some people, and they sometimes say, maybe, like, a friend or a colleague will pull to maybe you could tone it down a bit, but, have you had that ever happen to you? Or you're just like, "I'm Nick, this is me."
Yeah, I don't know. I think the latter, right? This is Nick, this is me. Oh, I like that. This is Nick, this is me. Yeah, not to my knowledge. I think I've worked in extremely, extremely welcoming newsrooms. I mean, I've also worked in newsrooms that have a lot of queer people and have a lot of gay people, right? I mean, New York, Miami, Los Angeles.
Yes.
So to that part, I think maybe that is why I've
Yes.
always worked in welcoming spaces, and I've also always had in some facet, right, like a LGBTQ plus manager or someone that's overseeing me that understands me, and I think that also helps. 'Cause I think having gay voices in upper management as well is also important because
Yeah.
they also want the same outcome as well.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I know you mentioned, advocating for, LGBTQ queer voices in the newsroom. And so in stories. And so for I guess how do you pitch those stories? Because sometimes like they want to put it in a box or this is not, universal. It doesn't affect everybody.
So if I'll send an email, and if the email doesn't get answered, then I just go knock on the door.
Okay.
Like, for that's kind of how I make it, like, and maybe to some people that they're scared to do that. Some people, like, send an email, they're like, "Oh, I did my part." Like, I sent an email, like, I tried. I'll give it a few days, but I also, like, think that sometimes a follow-up, maybe not via email, but face to face is works. Some people don't do that. For me, I try to do that because I want those stories to be told, and I will make sure they are told. And listen, is every story a reporter story? No. Can some stories be shot as a vote stop? Yes. And I think there's compromise, right? But I think still making sure that content is covered and representation is made, I'm happy.
No, absolutely. And I agree. And also because as you're not only advocating during the month of June, it's like year round. You're advocating
Yeah,
every day
right.
for
Exactly.
yes, for a story. So as this just for young producers, you got to these high markets. Like, what does it take to survive and thrive?
I think it's just like, don't give up. And I know that's so silly and so cliche. But it really is just don't give up. This business is tough, especially now. We're doing more with less, and sometimes you like are up against a wall. But I think my advice is like, just keep pushing forward. If you truly love what you do and you truly want to see change, especially now in the media industry, give it your all. Send those follow-ups, knock on those doors, call people, just be authentically you. And sometimes that is, again, a cliche, but it's like you need to just not back down. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I want to get inside your brain about how you conceptualize a newscast, especially the six, working with you, you always have things put together. Like I know whenever I go into your show, I know what I'm doing. You
Yeah.
have clear directions, and I can tell when I'm watching your 6 o'clock newscast, it is yours. And so, walk us through I guess, your process on how you select stories, how you execute them, and just the whole shebang.
Yeah. So 6 o'clock news for me at least, I try to be extremely hyper local, but I also want to make sure I hit every community, right? So when we have our morning meeting at 9 a.m., then we have another meeting for when we pick stories for our shows. I'm always like trying to identify like what is new, what is gonna, impact the most people. And that's kind of where I start. But I also want to make sure I'm, hitting people in Long Beach, hitting people in Orange County, hitting people in LA County. So seeing like how LA's huge, right? So
Yes.
you're making sure that you're hitting all those tent poles. And that's kind of how I start the day. And like as I'm listening on the call, like making notes in my head because I'm usually driving or walking the dog while I'm listening to the call. And I'm always like, okay, that works, that works, that works. And then as the day progresses, right, really laying it out on the rundown and seeing like if this is the lead. Obviously, the Boyle Heights fire is current right now.
Yes.
So that's, it's kind of been overtaking, but like, how are we advancing that story and how are we driving it forward? And that's kind of how I like, prioritize things, but also like what's teasable, right? So in my A block, I'm doing all these like really hard news stories. Then at 6:15, we have usually another story. And I try to make that one obviously important, but I want to make sure that it's something that I can like tease to keep the viewers like intact and like I want them to like stick around till 6:15. So, whether it's something light or something serious, and that's kind of how my brain works. But I always try to come to the show like super prepared and get my work done early because a lot of times, especially by 6, 5:30 swings around and the whole world is upside down.
Yes.
Everything you planned for I don't know, 8 hours has left the room.
Yes.
So I am a kind of person that gets to work at 10 a.m. and I am like, okay, let's get this show on the road, have everything done. A lot of times I like to write things myself because I just want to get it done. And I know the writers are typically, busy with the 3, the 4, the 5. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
much going on that I really try to get ahead of the game and take ownership while also still mentoring other people to help me like put my show together. But come 5:30 is like when I'm really in it. Like I'm like, okay, like, this breaker's happening here, this breaker's happening here. Like, is my lead still the lead? And really just kind of like putting that all together. And it's like putting a puzzle together, really.
Yes.
A puzzle that sometimes is missing pieces is how I like to describe it. Honestly, that's like the best way to describe sometimes my rundown. It's like a puzzle that's missing pieces because the pieces come together mid newscast. Like
Hmm.
Chopper's going to pursuit, Chopper's going to a fire. Like, we have this, we have that. And those are the missing puzzle pieces that make us whole, but I can't do it alone. So, obviously I'm looking to like my EP, I'm looking to my news director, my assistant news director, magic editor, Simon Test, all those people, right? Nothing is just me. A lot of times it takes a lot of people and a lot of, brains to be like, okay, this works, that works. And it's a process. It's a process that I love.
No, yes, absolutely. I mean, when I got to, Channel 4, I didn't realize how much of a team effort it is to put on a newscast. And maybe because I always worked mornings for most of my news careers, usually I'm doing most of the work.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, I get that. I worked mornings for so long, so it was a change for me as well.
So seeing that, but yes, that's what I love about the NBC4 News. Just the teamwork and just when Seth hits the fan, we'll just get on it.
Hmm. Yeah, there's kind of no like everyone just helps, right? There's no like designated person. It's more just like, "Oh, this is happening. We're doing it. Let's get on."
Yes, yes. And I'm just amazed how much you fit into the 6 because I know you have sports and weather, and
Hmm.
that takes up a considerable chunk of time. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know how you, get all those stories. And actually, this may have happened since I left because I do like that package, that runaround package of what's going around
Yeah.
everywhere. I like
Hmm.
that idea. So I just want to tell you that. I thought that was
Thank
genius.
you. Yeah, we do that in our B block. They're like we call them like whips. So it's like usually 3 stories, 30 seconds, and we try to make them like in all different neighborhoods. So it's like a whip around Southern California. And it works, it saves time. But oftentimes, back to your comment about like, how you fit so much in the 6, you should see me sometimes in the booth. I'm like taking lines out, trimming scripts. You can even ask the anchors. They're like, did you just trim that? And I'm like, yes, because I want that story, but it's not going to fit if you read it the way it is.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But also, I want to talk to you about a moment that we have lived through, the fires of
Hmm.
oh gosh, yeah, last year.
Yeah.
What is that coverage like? Because California, we have wildfire coverage, but the Palisades and Eaton fires, that just took it to a whole different level. So, what was your mindset being in the booth for hours producing that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we were in the booth. It was like Actually, the team for the booth, I remember, was like our 4, 5, and 6 producers. We were all down there, and it was just, I mean, obviously, I'm not from Southern California, but when you look up and you see the devastation and you see everything that's happening around you, but you're also doing your job. It's so incredibly hard to just like compartmentalize, right? Like you have to react. It was a tough time. I mean, there's no other way to describe it than just tough, but we were resilient. And we made sure that the stories were told, and we're still telling those stories. You know, it's been over a year now, and those stories are still being told because they're important, and there's still so much struggle in both neighborhoods as they try to rebuild. So yeah, that time, as I look back on it, it was devastating. It really, really was, and that there's no other way to describe it.
And guys, when you're producing those tough, hard to, I mean, you mentioned you produced that shooting back in in Jersey City. When you're producing those tough days, how do you take care of yourself mentally?
You work, then you come home, you pour yourself a glass of wine, and you watch Bravo. That's how I do it. No, I know. Like you have to take time for yourself. And I think a lot of that was my joking answer. This is my real answer. I feel like a lot of times like your managers are also there for you. I remember like there was a smaller fire that happened, the Sunset Fire in Runyon Canyon, and I live like right near Runyon Canyon. And I remember just like working all day, covering the Eaton fire, covering the Palisades fire, coming home, and then seeing a fire in my own backyard. And it's like, what do you do? And I remember calling my manager and just being hysterical, right? And that's okay. You're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to be you. Like I said earlier, be authentically you, even in the toughest times, because you can't help that. And I know it's our job to, you know, tell these awful stories, but it's also our job to take care of ourselves and take
Yeah.
those steps back and take that time, take that mental health day, you know, go on a walk, take a pause.
Yes, yes. I mean, you mentioned taking a pause. I mean, because I say right now, some producers today are experiencing burnout
Yeah.
right now, and I guess you mentioned, take a day off then to help with burnout. But I'll say, but my question is, what do you think is contributing to producers having this burnout and they're considering leaving, the news industry to do something else?
Yeah, and listen, we're tasked with doing a lot, and burnout's real. I mean, it sometimes, you know, you can't help it. I think you just need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, and that's really the key thing, right? It's like if you really think you need help, then get that help or take that time off. I mean, NBC is extremely good about making sure that we're
Mhm.
taking care of ourselves. And I
Yes.
think those resources are there. And if you're dealing with something like that, you should take it seriously. I mean, it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so also I'm gonna go back to so I know you're also part of NLGJA, the National
Hmm.
Lesbian Gay
Yeah.
Journalists Association. So how did you get involved in that? And tell me about the experience and the impact it has had on your life and career.
It's so great. Actually, the first time I got involved was when the conference was here. I had, you know, never been a part of it. You know, when I think the biggest struggle of working overnights is like you're sleeping during the day. So when any
Yeah.
event was happening, I would be sleeping because I had to work.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, I had normal hours for the first time in a long time. I like was able to get involved in more things. And when the conference came here, I was like, oh, I need to go. So I went, and it was such an incredible experience. And I've tried to stay active as much as I can, going to different events. But you learn so much from people in different factors of the business, right? Whether it's print journalism, you know, news, magazines, like all these different like outlets of queer media. It's incredible, and it's been such an incredible experience. I went to the conference in LA, then there was a conference in Atlanta, and now the next one is in San Francisco. And it's such a fun experience, but also like a learning experience. And it's so good to bring people from all over the country to one location and just like kind of like, you know, coexist and work together and do all those fun things. And it's such a great time.
Yes, yes. And what advice would you give to a baby gay journalist who, wants to be a producer or, a producer or work in this industry, but are seeing the current events about, especially some attacks against the queer community, especially the trans community. They feel like, how can I make an impact if they're curbing these stories now?
They're not going to curb the stories if you're there, right? I think that's what it is. Take that leap of faith. We've lived a very difficult life. Like, you know, it's not always easy, but who's going to tell those stories if you're not there? And that's what matters. Be that voice, because if you're not there, then those stories will be tabled, right? Those stories will be shelved. You need to make sure that you speak up and advocate, don't back down.
Absolutely. And before we wrap this up, because I always ask everyone this question, so Nick, what are you keeping up on?
Ooh, keeping up on The Real Houses of Rhode Island. Have you watched? I mean, come
Yes.
on. I just watched the first reunion episode last night and I was still looking at clips. I mean, I love Bravo and I love a housewife. So at my desk, I literally have like a bunch of Bravo things. No, yeah, that's what I'm keeping up on. Bravo and my summer vacations.
Okay, okay. Where are you going? Any destinations?
Yeah, I'm just going to Italy and when am I going? August. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And also,
Yeah.
are you team Kelsey or Rosie?
Ooh, well, I met Rosie at WeHo Pride, so I'm gonna go Team Rosie.
Okay. Yes, I'm team Rosie too. I'm just going by she's a former journalist. So
Exactly, exactly. And she's just I mean, her reads are just incredible. She knows what she's doing.
yes, yes. And also, so this is a profound question. So, Nick, who is Nick Amador now?
Nick Amador now. He's a gay journalist who's authentically himself and is going to continue to tell important queer stories and be himself wherever the next journey takes him as this career continues.
Awesome. And anything else you want to say? And where can people follow you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been exciting. My first podcast actually is you. So thank you
Awesome.
for bringing me on this podcast. And you can follow me at Nick Amador TV. That's NICKAMADOR TV.
Okay, great. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on the
you.
episode today. And for everyone, you can follow me at Keeping Up with Keith on all my platforms. That's on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok and YouTube. So, again, thank you so much, Nick, and have a great day.
Thank you.